Welcome back to Morning Express. Now, of course, to kick off conversation on the program this morning, we're being joined, graced in the studio by Dr. Aliyu Ilias, a political economist and also a public affairs analyst. Very good morning to you, Doctor.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful to have you join us here on Morning Express.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
First things first, we'll take a bus to River State. The president yesterday met with the Pan-Niger Development Association leaders and the PANDEF leaders, and one of the major things he had tasked them with was to go back home and help the governor, Aliyu Fubara, implement some of the Supreme Court rulings that he's yet to implement, while also chiding the governor to adhere to rule of law, stoop low to conquer.
Right. I think Fubara now have his back behind the wall. Yeah. That he does not have choice. He has to implement the Supreme Court ruling. However, this is, I think, President Tinubu need to go beyond what he just mentioned. I think he should go political as well, and also call the Wike and his team, even the State Assembly, to order to an extent, because Fubara could only make those things work if they actually cooperate with Fubara. And as it is now, you recall that they gave him ultimatum, was it 48 hours?
48 hours
that has elapsed. They still gave him another one, I don't know.
Well, they gave him a 48-hour ultimatum to
present,
represent
the budget.
The
right.
budget.
And I think that has elapsed. I think so. So now, the challenge is that it's beyond the Supreme Court ruling. Yeah. It's now the issue of political settlement. Because let's change it in the other way around. What if the judgment was in favor of Fubara? Would those people also want to agree with him? Because we understand that it's a political problem that needs political solution. However, it led to Supreme Court. So but I listened to Fubara himself. I think when he talks, he has actually accepted whatever befall him because of this case. Because I see beyond what we're actually seeing. Because I remember, was he Okocha or Sotoni Okocha, the APC faction chairman of Rivers, who said he made mention of something like impeachment and what have you. And I think the way they are actually going, by the time those ultimatum elapsed,
news was flying around some couple of days ago, I think 2-3 days ago, that a 48-hour ultimatum was given yet again to Governor Fubara to either resign or face impeachment.
Right.
Now these claims or these threats were not fully confirmed, whether they were true or not. But as far as we are concerned, the governor has not been impeached. The governor has not resigned. So I want to believe that I want to
actually embark on my own findings, and there's no way, nowhere the State Assembly members actually pronounce they want to impeach him. Exactly. But from the body language of what is actually happening, when you see myriad of issues confronting governors like this, you know that that's what they will end up doing. And you also recall that he has extend the olive hand, if at all they say it is quite late, that they should come for some discussion.
That they did not.
They did not actually honor him. So I think it's a sign that okay, it is now our own turn to really deal with it. And you agree with me that there is no way they want him at that Hems of affair, because it will continue to actually have a divided River State, as it were. You also recall that he has also adhered to the rules of the Supreme Court, where he said there should be election. Was it in August? He has declared the date, and you also recall that the State Assembly also called the RCEC, or what they call it, and declare warrant of arrest on him. And you should know that that signal that it's actually the governor that actually fights, because he actually work on directive of governor. And you agree with me that in any state in Nigeria, the governor always have their own way when it comes to local government. And that's where I see that there's more trouble, because in the coming local government election in August, governor will still want to have it his way. He will not open his eyes and allow every other people to take over the position. So I think it's a serious issue, but I think president needs to go beyond that, because at this case now, president is saying that he should adhere to the rules of Supreme Court. What about political solution? Because we know that there's definitely two camps, the camp of Fubara and the camp of Yesom Wiki.
Well, in this sort of situation with these calls made by the president, one particular thing that I have taken away from it, and one particular thing that I have not really fully understood, is the president asking the governor to stoop to conquer.
Well, I think that language is quite
Do you care to dissect that?
Right, dissecting that simply means president have its own people is tilting towards
his own interest,
exactly,
personal interest.
Exactly.
In River State.
President have to have interest. You know why? By 2027 election, whoever have take the grip of River State, that's where president will tilt towards. So president also would like to prepare is grand, just like what is happening in Osun State. People always like to plan yourself, because a state like River State is not what you take for granted. Once you take that for granted, you recall that even Jonathan have his own issue right from River State. You also discover that even PDP have their issue River State, and up to now there is no clear indication if Wike is APC or PDP, and I assure you, it will still remain like that, because we want to really deliver.
Unlike his
SDP man.
Not the well, doctor, now you are derailing. Well, yes, technically the SDP man.
The SDP man.
He has now clearly stated that he's not part of the APC.
Yes,
and that he is ready to work assiduously to make sure that the person he claimed he worked assiduously to bring into power is taken out of power.
Right. But he has he has freedom to do that. We've seen it, people cross carpeting and going for their interest. So for me, I think he's going out for his interest. But I will tell you, APC did not manage.
Is SDP a formidable party? And do you think it stands any
chance? Was APC formidable party before they become what they became?
Well, we know that there was an alliance. Before. There was an alliance that happened.
It is not too late for an alliance
between SDP and PDP.
PDP, Labour, they can come together and give us. The thing is, they may not succeed in getting presidency, but they may succeed in getting states. Don't undermine political power when it comes to merger. So imagine SDP. Just imagine these four people: Atiku, Obi, Kwankwaso, and El-Rufai coming together. Are you saying they will not deliver some states?
Well,
remember Kwankwaso is also having issues in NNP.
My major concern here, we will still get back to River State, but I just want you to touch on this lastly before we move on. My major concern here is Atiku has been wanting to be president for almost 3 decades.
Right.
More than 3 decades.
He can also compromise this time around.
We don't know whether
he can also compromise.
We don't know whether the Dubai man would want to do that. Kwankwaso has always been
correct.
Aspiring to be president.
Right.
We all know that Peter Obi is not stepping aside for anybody anymore.
Peter Obi could be the darling among these four.
Exactly.
It's possible. And because it's from the south.
With the disgruntlement of El-Rufai towards the Tinubu-led administration, we know that El-Rufai might not necessarily go for presidency, but he would work as much as possible to make sure he thwarts the activities and actions of the APC ahead of 2027.
So let's now look at it like this. When we have Obi presidency, Kwankwaso vice president, Obi presidency, El-Rufai vice president.
What happens to Atiku?
Atiku could be godfather. That's what we're expecting to do.
Do you think that Atiku would
I am convinced at this point in time.
The man just wants to be president and retire from national politics.
I am convinced at this point in time that reason will prevail on him. Because sometimes when you have agitated enough, you might see reasons. Because if any northern president comes out now, they may find it difficult. You recall El-Rufai champion Tinubu becoming president. We can say that. Because he actually came out as the first northern governor who said it is the turn of the south. And I recall that president even went there and said El-Rufai, you won't retire, we also have to work together. Yeah. But the game now changed. So it's possible it could be Obi time. But the thing is, Obi need to do more. You need to go beyond preaching yourself. Yeah. You have to go into political sensitization, and you have to be a political man, party man, so to say, not you looking at your individual. So imagine all the elements, people in a Labour Party turning their side to SDP. What do you think will happen? these are the things we need to look at. So this is permutation and it's coming everywhere. But for me, I think APC did not manage El-Rufai very, very well.
And it's quite dangerous.
It's how do I call it? It's an evil you must have within. You know, there's some evil you have to have within
to contain it.
Contain it, even though you are not comfortable. And we know him that he can work a research out to show that this is where you are weak, this is where you are strong. Remember, he was the chairman for what do we call it? Reform, not reform. There's a what we call it where we want to like change the. It was APC chairman. I will recall that thing where they gave him to do, and they have some facts still with him. You know, a lot of things, and people like El-Rufai don't joke with him.
He's privy to certain information,
exactly
secrets of the APC.
Let's even dissect the role they wanted to give him. Imagine an El-Rufai as a minister of power, and the current minister of power. What do you think in terms of antecedents and productivity? You know, that's why I say he's an enemy you have to have within. But as it be that as it may, I think president also has his own calculation. You know, he's a political juggernaut.
The president is a political juggernaut, and we know that ahead of 2027, plans are already on the way. As much as El-Rufai is in quotes a necessary evil that you need to have within.
Right.
But the president is equally on a higher pedestal.
If you look at recently, a lot of people decamped to APC from PDP in Kaduna State. So I was thinking if he had come on time, because I don't know if Nkuya and Co actually go.
They would have moved to SDP.
And it's possible. People like, what's his name? This man from Kaduna, also the activist, former senator, can also align with El-Rufai. And Kaduna State may be where they will start their game from Senator Shehu Sani. So if you look at that Kaduna State, the problem starts from the governor himself. I think he felt governor actually sell him out. You know, that's how actually. So it might start from there.
Now, not to derail a little bit too much. Let's go back to River State,
right?
So, because I don't think it's yet time for our flight to take off from there. But in terms of the Supreme Court ruling, Dr. Aliyu, there are certain things that the ruling had mandated the governor to do.
Right.
One is recognizing and reinstating the Matthew Amaule-led River State House of Assembly faction as the legitimate, speaker and members of the House of Assembly, and also paying their arrears of salaries and bonuses and allowances all throughout the period that the governor had, removed them from power. Another thing is the fact that the local government polls that had been held while this entire crisis was happening is illegal, and that the governor has to conduct fresh local government council polls.
Right.
What is so difficult in executing all of these verdicts as issued by the Supreme Court that is still making the governor delay in his actions? That it would require a meeting between leaders of PANDEF and the president to talk some sense into the governor.
Right. I think it's political. There are some political undertone that we may not be privy to actually see. And those PANDEF does not actually go to negate the governor. I think they just go to solicit president support to actually discuss between Wiki and the governor
and unite them.
However, seeing that case of not paying salary for them, I think it's still law. Fubara can say I actually follow the law as at that period that you have been declared, vacant. So there's no room for me to actually pay. So you can also hide on that. But the question is that someone must have been sustaining these people before this new law. Who was sustaining them? That's another question.
Could it be the man in Abuja?
I don't know. Well, that he has the capacity. So they must, and they will be very, very loyal to you, because it's not easy for you to be out of pay at that level and you still sustain it. So for me, Fubara inviting them to discuss it, I think it's a good thing for Fubara to actually extend that olive hand. However, it's also not bad, their reaction, because they want to say, well, you have the power, then you actually deal with us. So it is our time now
to deal with
day or day, the way you say it in Nigerian parlance, day or day for now. Let us also play our own game. But I think in as much as court has said you should pay, don't wait for them. you know their accounts, you know they furnish them with what they actually
as long as
wanted.
the funds
And
are
I'm so
available.
sure they are also in the wrong, will I say wrong, temporary state assembly. I'm not sure they are in the actual.
No, they are not.
They are not.
They're more like a makeshift
location. So I think he should do more
House of Assembly
to actually provide them what they actually needed. And I think also in terms of local government election, that's where another problem comes. So he is in a PDP. Those 27 people are in APC, right?
APP. APC, right
APC now.
The members of the House of Reps,
now
House of Assembly.
It's going to be a serious issue now.
But also, another conflicting issue here is the fact that most of the PDP stalwarts that ran for the local government council chairmanship position moved from PDP
to APC
to APP.
Right, that's not a problem. They can move back.
Now this is an entirely different political party.
They can also
an unpopular political party that has been brought into the picture.
Right, but it's good for them, and that's the way the SDP is coming up now.
How sure are we that these people, the way they moved in droves to the APP, will still move in droves back to the back to the PDP without the APC diverting some of them?
My major problem is even PDP here. PDP are not formidable as expected.
In Rivers State. And yet the
even in Nigeria again, you know, you can't compare, you know, when you say opposition party, remember the role APC actually played. You know, in this case of Fubara issue, we don't see governors of PDP, you know, getting close to him, supporting him. You remember people like Makinde are still Wike ally, right? But others, you know, are supposed to come together and support him. So that's where the problem is. So for me, politically, I'm not sure if he's actually sustain impeachment or succeed impeachment, or are able to scale through impeachment. I think he's a political. You have a political.
At this point, it's
not easy for him.
It's safe to say that Governor Fubara is basically surrounded by enemies.
100%.
Surrounded by sharks, almost as if he's
and the president also is not with him at all. I tell him go and say okay.
I wouldn't say the president is not with him, but the president is trying to maintain a state of neutrality.
I will not agree with that.
He's being neutral because
I will not agree with that.
In as much as the Minister of the FCT is a PDP member but works assiduously for an APC-led administration. You understand? The president is not in any way trying to take sides with the minister.
For me, I think the president, in my own wisdom, I think the president would end up or has been tilting towards the Minister of FCT simply because, you know, he's working for him. From one indication it shows, and you know, you also have that power. You know, it's like a governor in FCT as well. So for me, if you look at their settlement, their earlier settlement, you know, it was not so much in favor of Fubara, you know, and that's where the problem actually started from. And I also don't blame the president when you have two issues, two people contesting. You also look at which one you actually prefer, and it's human to actually look at the one that you think you benefit more from.
I was waiting to hear that.
So
it's not just enough to like a person. It's
come with benefits. It's come with
personal interest
and
all of that.
And Wike has delivered. He delivered Rivers State. In fact, people voted for PDP in governorship.
When it comes to presidency, 2027, Fubara is part of the PDP.
It's part of the PDP.
He might not deliver for
that is the thinking. But if I'm Fubara, I also decamp to APC.
Well, let's hope Fubara does that.
So I will now look at what Ganduje and Co will do.
Because the noose of impeachment hanging over his head is about to tighten.
So it's better if he comes to APC, he can lose 2027, but he will sustain impeachment.
Well, let's move on to other topics now. You have quite dissected this topic way more than I had expected, but let's see what happens in the coming days.
Right.
With these ultimatums given to the governor time and time again, and let's hope that he adheres to the president's calls and obeys the rule of law.
I'm convinced he will obey. He do not have choice. He has his back to the wall, so he has to just, you know, and this is Supreme Court, final, so he does not have any choice.
I have good news for you, Dr. Ali.
Right.
Let's take a look at the Daily Trust newspaper this morning as I deliver this good news to the esteemed doctor here. On the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, tax reform bills, Reps Committee proposes major changes. 1. drops VAT increase, modifies inheritance tax, and sustains funding for TED Fund, NITDA, and Naseni.
Well, it's a very good.
So which one of this is the good news for you?
Well, I will go for the first one because
I just knew it. You have been advocating for that.
Honestly, the fact is that if you look at it, we even said don't do it at the same time. Don't just jump. Move gradually to that level you actually expect, because VAT means a lot. I can tell you what it takes out of people. In as much as it gives to government, but government needs to at least step down and look at it. Build the economy first. Where the economy has the capacity, the ability, you can now start increasing your own. But in as much as most of us actually love this reform, it's a good one. It takes us from the archaic tax reform, and it will make sure that we have a central pool of it, rename the organizations, and stop us from using stick and nail to stop people on the street. And it will also capture and expand the tax net, which is a good one. But in terms of inheritance, some of us actually talk about this inheritance. The way they put it, most Muslims, so to say, actually negate that area.
Please, you break that down a little bit for us, because I seem to have a little bit of trouble understanding the inheritance tax, the modification to the inheritance tax, and why most Muslims sort of, are against it. You are a Muslim. You're here to break that down for us.
So what we are seeing in that perspective is that there's an Islamic law that guide how you can share inheritance already, which capture like 40, different stages, family, children, extended family, and what have you. So this one is now saying that if the inheritance is there, government will remove maybe at least 20% already from source before you now share, and it has been covered already. Those are the things we are now look as if it's double taxation. So that's where we really have issues.
So taxes to the government,
inheritance.
Taxes to the government in inheritance has been covered already Islamically. And now the federal government wants to add a 20% taxation on the from the source on the overall amount. So you pay the 20% on the overall amount, and then still pay the Islamically mandated a percentage to the government.
Then beyond that, there's a law of inheritance already. It's a very strong law in Islam. So which, whether you like it or not, it's naturally being implemented. So if you are bringing this law again, that means you are still taxing that income again. So, and that's why most people tend to negate it, that no, why not leave it as it were, so that we can actually manage it the way we are going to manage it. So I think that's the challenges and I'm happy that it has been captured. We try to be silent about it, most of us, so that it won't look as if we are bringing religion perspective to it. But underground, we are trying to say no. We have to look at this very, very well, so that we can see that it is not affecting some part of people. Core not, or most Muslims have their way of actually doing things, which is much more institutional. That's it. And what was the third one?
Well, it's sustenance of funding for that
was our fear.
But I was thinking about something. Recently the EFCC had cited that most of the recoveries it has been making with regards to looted funds or whatnot have been channeled towards the funding of TED Fund and all of these things, alongside other things.
It's not statutory.
Could this massive success recorded by EFCC, or the massive successes recorded by them, have been the reason why the committee, the House of Reps committee on the tax reform bills, decided to sustain funding for TED Fund, Naseni, and NITDA?
Right. You see, the EFCC recovery is not statutory and is not sustainable, so to say, because those things have to go through courts and go through a lot of if you go to some places close to national ones, you see a lot of abandoned vehicles, 15 years, 12 years. Are you saying this after 12 years that the value must have appreciated? They are going to sell those things. If you see houses that they have put keep off could be there for next 12 years, you don't know when.
Nobody is occupying it.
I passed through. I went to Kenya. I was coming. If you get to Osara, you see New University, Confluence University. You see TED Fund. You see the building they are giving. Go to several school, polytechnics, and universities. You see that TED Fund is carrying out a lot of work. So if you now say the money, you have to subject it to this area, it will not be enough. And you agree with me that if you go to our infrastructure in terms of institutions, it's state fund that is actually sustaining it. So we have to sustain. So it's a kudos to them, and I'm happy they are doing it in this manner. That simply means that we have overflowed the issue even before they actually it get to them.
Well, fantastic take there, but we'll still stay with the House of Representatives, where the House of Reps has asked the Nigeria Communications Commission to sort of disconnect or ask service providers, internet service providers, to disconnect websites that have pornographic or obscene images and videos in them. Now, this is in a bid to curb the menace or the endemic of pornography and addiction to those sort of illicit contents across the country. As many people have reacted to this differently. Others were for the motion, saying that yes, it's timely, it's good, while some people looked at it from a moral point of view, citing that this is not something that the House of Representatives should even be thinking about, because it's more of a moral issue than a political or an economical or a social issue in that sense. What do you make of this?
Well, for me, I'm for the motion, and this is my reason. I think it's only Nigeria that it is only in Nigeria that every internet is accessible.
Yes.
It's only in Nigeria that
including the dark web.
Every platform is accessible. If you go to a country like Dubai, you cannot even make some voice call. You know, if you go to China, you cannot use some app. If you go to even America, they try to caution a lot of things. So I think it's
censorship.
I think it's timely, because we have been exposed to a lot, even beyond pornography. The other side that we just launched, and I want to, is it that is under digital economy that is actually doing that too? How can you launch a web? I recall that we have a Shark Loans website.
Yes.
How can you launch it without the knowledge of NCC? You know, it's a serious thing that we must look at. That
the loan sharks
that have to like text people, all those things,
and then create sort of like obituary posters
exactly
for people who have erred or have not paid them back their money.
Families and their friends share their pictures
everywhere. Big issue at some
exactly.
point.
So it has to take FCCPC to actually intervene. I think there's a lacuna in that as well between CBN. Which agency is actually taking care of that area? I think we need to look at the financial something website, so that government could actually look at how to create a regulatory body for that. So, but what I'm actually saying is that it is only in Nigeria that you just launch those things to the space and nobody is monitoring. But in some country, once you launch it, they will hold it, they will censor it before it actually goes viral. So I think it's a good one at this point in time that we have to reduce, because you know the way things are actually going out of hand now.
Yes.
With our social media, with our once you have phone in your hand, it's as if you have the whole world.
You have the
people
entire
are even
world
being initiated to a lot of things through phone. I think it's a good one that we are bringing.
Now, what the major argument by the member of the House of Reps who had raised the motion, I can't quite remember his name, but he was citing moral grounds more than economic, security, or whatever grounds. It was more like trying to curb the addiction that is now ravaging through the country, especially with the younger demographic. That is where the argument was stemming.
We cannot trade off our morality
in
the face of economic benefits. Let's even put it side by side. In the long run, what happens? You know, we have to look at the long run. By the time society is becoming something else, it will be a difficult, and that's one of the kudos that people are giving to Trump. You know, Trump is trying to curb those things that, you know, it is the exposition of all this internet that made them to have what you call transgender.
Yeah.
That make us to have a male, female, and with the middle, what do you call the middle?
Where you have the very confused set of...
Exactly. When people try to decide, okay, let me convert myself, or how do I call it? Or are they dividing themselves to another gender? Transgender. So it's a serious issue until we start curbing those things. Perhaps this is Africa. There's some things that are unethical for us. We have to start condemning, because it is taken to our children and they will take it to war. It will take it to a more negative height if we don't manage. So I think for me it's a good one that they are looking into it. Perhaps if you look at internet, we are also looking at, if you are talking about the economic loss of it. What about the issue of cryptocurrency and other thing that CBN is trying to curb itself? Is it why do they leave it? Because it's affecting even the economy itself. Why some people are still benefiting from it economically? So you have to look at this.
I think the motion was moved by a member representing the Faskari, Kankara, and Sabua Federal Constituency, talking about Honorable Dalhatu Tafoki. He had sponsored the motion, and of course, citing that it's a step towards protecting societal values in Nigeria.
Our value is very
very religious country.
It's very, very religious indeed. When you talk about Christianity, Islam, even the other religion.
which other religion? Well, I just hope you are not part of the other religion.
No, I'm a Muslim.
You are a Muslim. I'm a Christian. But I don't know the other religion you're talking about.
No, we have traditional religion,
all
which is not a problem.
That's understood, Doctor. Well, moving on, we have just about 10 minutes to wrap up the conversation on Morning Express, but we will go to a very important issue in the news, with a killing spree that has ravaged the nation, and of course many Nigerians reacting angrily to it. It's on the issue of herders ravaging through farmlands and killing certain individuals, especially farmers. Attacks have happened in Ondo, in Benue and Nasarawa state, where collectively about 30 people have been killed. This is a very sad development in the country.
Very, 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 very sad indeed. In fact, when I got to hear about Ondo, you recall the one that happens last. Is it that church massacre?
Yes.
What had actually happened? So for me, when I got to hear Ondo, I was saying, where is Amoteku? We have actually
with the massive recruitment that they've been recruitment.
We have actually praised Amotekun for their good work. I think this will spur them to do more. But it is a sad one that we are still experiencing such, not even in the north this time around. We're talking about in the
southwest.
So it is serious.
That has one of the strongest paramilitary institutions talking about
until we go back to what Zulum that just did it, whereby he has a center for headers, where we should have camp for each headers, because until we stop the marauding, that's when we can actually curb this problem. There will be clash between the farmers.
A typical Fulbe herder will tell you that right from time immemorial, his forefathers have always led their cattle through certain cattle grazing routes across not just Nigeria, but the entire African continent or even West Africa.
I think that is not correct, and that's quite archaic. In fact, if you look at why Jonathan actually built Almajiri schools, those are part of the reason. And beyond that, economically, is it even productive? Let's even look at it very well. You are trading off the person that is actually heading the cows, and you are also not giving the cow healthy how do I call it, feeding and healthy living. If you go to Botswana, I'm not sure what Nigerian produce is up to what Botswana produce in a year in terms of cow and all those things. So we should go into that route and look at that system and also adopt it. We must start having a grazing environment where they will be. You look at, I watched the launch of Zulum, where he launched, there's clinic, there's school, there's everything, there's feed. They bring everything. It turns into a commercial hub.
Another major aspect that we might want to really take a look at is in terms of sustainability. These people have always been herders. They've always been nomads all their lives. They are used to moving from point A to point B all the way through to point Z in a bid to search for greener pasture and water for their cattle.
I don't get what you call greener pasture.
Of course, when we all know that at some point the grasses, the greenery in the northern part of the country dries up, so they move or migrate to the southern part of the country that has better vegetation.
I think the science has proved that you can actually walk around it.
Are they willing to do that?
That is the willingness. That's what I'm telling. So it seems it now borders on sensitization, education, creating the environment for them. Because if they have in that environment, they will live even a better life compared. Because if you see an average marauder, you won't even himself is not perhaps they are not the owner of those cows. This is another problem we must look at.
But Dr. Aliyu, we are sort of moving away from the major bone of contention here.
Right.
It is the killings.
Right. It's the killings.
We saw in Adamawa State recently where a High Court in the state had upheld a ruling for
Sunday.
for somebody to be killed, but
Because
to die by hanging,
because he defends.
because in a bit of self-defense, he had killed a herder who had infiltrated his farmland with cattle, cleared his crops, and even tried to kill him.
My father called me and said, "Help me thank God." And I said, "What happened?" He said, "I was attacking my farm by herders, and by the time they attacked me, I couldn't even know where I am. But they left me. I discovered myself, and I have to, when I look, not call bush. My father just decided to have where he would just have a small plantation, and I'm telling you. So by the time I got to, I now think in my mind, so God forbid, what would have happened
if he would have been one of the statistics
exactly
of the people killed?
I'm telling you. So if you look at it very well, I think the major issue is that we must stop people from moving around people's farm, eating up it. It's not a good one. And the case of Sunday, I'm sure it should be revisited, because you cannot say self-defense. And because when you see people that want to kill, just like an military man who went to war, somebody wants to kill you and you are able to kill the person first, they are now saying you are actually at fault. I think that should be revisited.
It's quite shameful, because one of the major things that the ruling had cited was the fact that he had every opportunity
to run away,
and he did not.
So when you are running and they are hacking you, where
does this place the integrity of our judiciary?
I think that's where,
especially when it comes to serving justice to the common man.
Perhaps even let's look at even the story historically. It has been recorded that these people actually take over people's farm, eat it up and go. Yeah. So the person was attacked, and there is a clear evidence that the person was attacked. But in the case of self-defense,
he clearly cited that it was an attack.
It was an attack.
He did not deny the fact that he had.
They should have made findings about the attack. Was the attack truth? Was it facts? I think they should just fact check that and allow him, because if the person that he killed would have killed him, what would have happened?
I don't think there's ever been any case of any herder that was charged to court or sentenced to death by hanging due to this sort of issue.
Let's even say we have not seen a conclusive, case of herders attacking the farmers.
It's one thing for Nigerians to be angry. It's one thing for Nigerians to state that there's an uproar over a certain societal issue, and this is just one of many such cases. But beyond just being upset, beyond just speaking out against it, what viable solutions, what practicable solutions can be applied to stop these incessant killings? 30 persons in 3 states, overgrazing is not reasonable.
We have to prepare very well, because that seems, if care is not taken, this may consume us the more, because it's a simple logic that this will continue. In as much as you don't stop the herders moving around, there will always be clash. You know what? A farmers will not allow you to come and just step on the farm that has actually expended a lot of money, strength, and what have you into. And this is why you see that Amotekun will do more now. They may say we don't want any Fulanis in our environment, which and most people that are actually committing this thing, they actually move into that environment. There's some Fulanis that have domiciled in a particular area already. Those people are not the main problem. It's those people that are marauding.
And this will sort of create a social tension, communal tension that will now affect the people who are domiciled.
Okay, look at what happened in Benue. An average Benue man find it difficult to go to farm. People in Plateau find it difficult. Even people in my Kogi here find it difficult to go to farm, simply because they may encounter this type of experience, and which is a difficult thing, and it is also affect our food security. These are what we must look at. In as much as you are also trying to have a sustainability for yourself by heading your cow, you must also allow people that are farming to also carry out their farming. This is the problem, and it is saddening that Buhari government was unable to solve the problem, and this still continues. I can tell you, even in Abuja here, FCT, according to minister, he said the car will stop moving around. I still see it every time. They are crossing the road, express and whatever. They cross
our office gate every now and then.
So it's a serious thing. So they've not been cautioned. I think government should provide what is necessary for them, so that they can actually have a grazing environment where they can actually stay put, feed and actually market their cow. I can tell you, Botswana, they are a good example for we to understudy.
All right, Doctor, I think this is a fine place to leave the conversation, but it's been a very punchy one with you here this morning. Always ready to give us interesting takes on topical issues in the news.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.